Coaches, I am back and I am so excited to be here with Shrylle Mikkonen. I know I said that wrong. Mikkonen, sorry. This is her little bio I want to give you. She's a curious adventurer raised on an organic farm in South Dakota, fueled by a thirst for learning and trying new things. With a background in psychology and social work, she honed in her teaching, leadership, and coaching skills during her corporate training and management career. However, she felt a void despite checking off all the boxes. Through self-discovery and guidance from coaches, she found the answers. Now, she has crafted a balanced life that blends leadership, personal growth, and freedom. I love that. Join her on this journey. Residing in North Dakota with her fiance and bonus kiddo, she embraces water, camping, music, and family. When not with them, you'll find her coaching, creating in the kitchen, chatting with friends, or immersed in a book. Let's connect. And I love that because I am a learner. It's my top skill, and I love to read. So welcome, Shrylle.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm grateful to be here. Thanks for the opportunity to connect and have an awesome conversation to get our Tuesday started off.
Yes, I love it. And it's going to be a great one because, in your bio and just, the topic of today's discussion is going to be really, really fun. And I'm so excited to learn from you as well. So let me start by asking you, what are the two top things that your clients struggle with and how do you help them with that?
Totally. So, very straightforward. The two basic things are just feeling a lack of joy and enthusiasm in life and feeling out of balance. That's the straightforward short answer is we just feel like something is missing and we know that there's more out there.
Yes, and it's so funny because I remember that time in my life is when I hit 30. And it was just like this whole aha moment, and this door opened up and I was like, whoa, what's that?
Yeah, for so many people, sometimes it's the mothers who get lost in their motherhood and their kids go to school and they're like, okay, now what? Who am I? What am I doing? What do I like to do? And we don't even stop to ask questions like, what sets our soul on fire? What do I have fun doing? I'm amazed how many people I speak with and I'm like, so what do you like to do for fun? And like, I guess I don't know. What are some of your dreams? Well, I don't know. I mean, we just forget to ask about ourselves. And that doesn't mean that we can't incorporate our kids and our family into our dreams. And even in the career aspect, I worked for a corporate company. I loved my job. I loved my work. I was making great money, all the awesome things that are checking boxes, but it just still felt like something was missing. And that's where that intuition and asking the questions brings you to some of the answers.
It's so true because I remember that time in my life and, when my kids went to school and all of that stuff. And I actually started a business in my home at that point, but that came a time where I was missing stuff. And I actually went back to school at that time. I wasn't really in tune to asking myself a lot of questions back then, but I totally am now. And I think that's such an important piece of it. And so let me ask you, for the audience, how do they create balance when they have so many things to juggle on a day-to-day basis?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, the first thing that we have to understand is that the balance is ever changing. So although you create balance, it shifts. So right now, today, you can change day to day, right? Today, your focus might be on having a successful day at work, and the weekend comes and you're focusing on your children, and the beginning of the month comes and you're focusing on your finances. So it's partially recognition that the balance is ever changing. But then also we have to recognize where we are, and it comes back to asking those questions. I'm sure yourself, many of my clients and yours alike are familiar with the wheel of life.
Yes.
and taking the time to do a wheel of life and see, where am I at? Where is my imbalance? What's important to me? What are some of my values? And start taking the time to ask yourself those questions. And once you see, pardon me, where you're at in the wheel, you can start to create a vision for where you want to be. How can you balance that wheel a little bit better? Where does your focus need to be? Because we get so tunnel vision on maybe just the family or just the career aspect, that's where the imbalance comes in, that we're not taking the time to even recognize that there is imbalance.
Yeah. And would you say that is twofold? Because I feel it is, as far as like, looking at that wheel and saying, oh my God, I'm focusing everything on my kids, right? I'm focusing everything on my family. But then I also see people trying to take everything and balance that whole wheel out at the same time and feeling so overwhelmed that they get nowhere because they're just overwhelmed by it all.
Absolutely. That's such a great mention, Lisa. And that's something that I tell my clients too. If as you do the wheel, you put your little dot, and there's one that's way in here and there's one that way out here. So the point isn't to get everything way out here. It's to meet yourself where you are. And your wheel might just be this big to create a type of balance for yourself. And that's the way that I help alleviate some of the overwhelming feelings when we try to do everything all at once and get everything to a satisfaction level 10. That's where that overwhelm can step in, and then we just freeze. We get into freeze mode and lose any kind of progression because it just feels too big.
Yes, I love that you said that. We lose the progression because it gets too big and overwhelming for us. And I think that's such an important thing. And so why would you say, I know, in our conversation, you've talked about playing. So why would playing, why is that a key component of your coaching structure? And what do you mean by it?
Awesome. So this is something that I didn't really recognize was super important to me. So let me start with what I mean by play. So to me, playing is getting in touch with the things that bring you joy and excitement. When you're in the kitchen and you're cooking dinner, are you doing it because it's a chore or because it's fun? Can you shift your mentality around that? Can you make it creative and playful? And maybe that means adding in music or incorporating your husband or your partner or your children, and playing with the things you're already doing. And then there's the other aspect of it, of maybe you go to a museum, or you go for a walk to a new park, or and you can do these things solo or with friends, right? So the whole purpose of playing and experimenting is helping you understand what brings you joy, what sets your soul on fire. And once you bring that play into your life, you get into this childlike enthusiasm.
Mhm.
And once you can tap into that energy, you bring yourself to this place of, things are fun, life is good. And as you get to that place, I'm going to do this as my elevated level of energy and emotion, and more things are going to present themselves to me. The world becomes more beautiful. The mundane tasks become more fun. Think about the woman who's using the broom as her microphone, and all of a sudden the chore is fun. And if you can find ways to incorporate that playfulness, both in new creative ways and old things that have to get done anyway, shift your energy and bring more like experiences to you, and learn about yourself and things that you didn't even realize bring you joy.
Yeah, and I just love all that you said, because again, those are all things I love to do. I love to cook. I find it very therapeutic. I love music. Was a dancer. I used to, win trophies at, when I would go out dancing and all that stuff. But I have not done that in a long time. And when you were talking about that just now, I got a little chill that says, I need to play music more, and the oldie music, and dance around my house more and get that level of energy up. And yes, I never thought of it being as playful, but that's true. Those kind of things elevate the energy, which then elevates what you put out to the world as well.
And let me also add, when you're playing and you're trying things that are either new or familiar to you, you're toying with your courage. And once you step into courage, you're enhancing your confidence, which enhances your enthusiasm. So it's a ripple effect of that. But let me give you an example of last summer. I found an old pair of rollerblades in my house. I was never a great rollerblader. I think I got a bloody nose on more than one occasion doing roller skating, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it. And it was scary. I didn't think that I could do it. And I couldn't, I couldn't let go of the wall and I was shuffling, but I had the courage to try, and that made me feel brave. Pardon me. And then that brings the confidence. So you try that in all these other areas, a new recipe, a new activity, go back to dancing, and that courage and stepping out of fear. We all know life happens outside your comfort zone. Growth happens outside your comfort zone. And taking the opportunity to play with that courage and build that confidence breaks through that fear barrier and makes it easier to progress and flex that courage muscle.
Yes, and I can imagine that you trying the rollerblades actually had you laughing quite a bit. And what better thing is to laugh, right? And maybe you're laughing with your kids and doing things like that, and I will put in a quick little bite. I remember me and my young adult children sitting, and I was cooking dinner, and two of them were in the kitchen, but one was sitting at the table, and I had everything set, and he just kept poking the knife at the bottle of soda. And I said, stop it, because you're going to punch a hole in it, right? Well, didn't he do that? Not intentionally, but he did, right? And the soda started squirting, and I took the bottle and ran out the front door and decided to open it. And it just went, and it was a great laugh. It was fun, but it was, we have to get back into that playful thing. So, it just, like you said, builds confidence. And I wanted to ask you about inspired action. Like, how does inspired action build confidence? Because that's just another way to build your confidence. And a lot of us lack confidence in different areas of our life.
Absolutely right. Well, I'm going to use you as the example. Not 3 minutes ago, you said, I used to dance. I used to win trophies. You immediately lit up when you spoke about it. You felt an inkling of inspiration that you didn't even know was there. Did you know before this morning that you had the desire to continue and go out dancing?
I've thought about it, like not go out dancing, because I don't really, that's not my thing, is to be in a club or anything, but just even dancing around the house. And I need to put music on more to do that.
Yes. So that's the inspiration. So a lot of it is tuning in and listening. Maybe you're a woman who sees gardening videos. Oh, that's not me. I could never do that. I couldn't, but it looks like fun. So that's inspiration. So take inspired action and plant one single seed in a little tiny bucket. And so when we take that, start asking those questions and listening to the little things, that there's a spark. Oh, maybe I should turn on music more. And when we, again, practice not only that courage muscle, but practice listening to the intuition and take those clues to take that inspired action to try all these new things, that's where the confidence comes in, and we start to build off the courage and the confidence with inspired action.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a little more forced, you have to force yourself out there to do those things.
Yeah. And so I'll bring up another thing and let you comment on it, because it's something that I remember when my kids were little, and I loved doing crafts and stuff like that. And it's just another piece, right? I used to start to do crafts, and then I would stop because I'm like, oh, this looks horrible. And I would never finish them, like wreaths or anything that I was doing. And then one day I said, you know what? I'm just going to finish it till the end, because in the middle, of course, it's not going to look good. And I forced myself to finish it. But when I got done, it actually turned out really beautiful, and I got a lot of compliments on it. And so that made me go on and do more projects. So what would you say when people are starting something, but then stop in the middle of it?
That is an excellent question. And that's a hard thing to work through because we have this innate fear, I suppose, of this isn't good enough.
Mhm.
And this is something that myself, I was sharing a story with one of my coaches, and I said, yeah, when I was a kid, I used to play basketball and I loved it. You would say at that time it was a passion, but I wasn't very good. And I played piano for 10 years, but I wasn't very good. And she's like, where is this coming from? You're not very good according to whom? And I was like, well, that's a great question. Nobody ever told me I wasn't good at basketball or I wasn't good at piano. So when it comes to doing projects today, part of that is listening to where is that coming from? Why is this project not good enough, and not good enough for who? Why is this craft not good? And part of it is wanting the validation, of course, and the power that comes from that is listening to what your voice is telling you,
Yeah.
recognizing that it could be a limiting belief that I didn't even recognize I carried, and that could be the same for you. And when we get done with a project, a craft, something new, if you're not feeling satisfaction in the result, take satisfaction in having completed it.
Yeah.
Take satisfaction in having tried something new. It doesn't have to be beautiful, but you accomplished something. You did it. You completed it. You tried something. So finding different ways to fuel that inspiration post project if it doesn't satisfy the enoughness or quality of what you were hoping to have as a result.
I love that. Be satisfied and appreciate what you did do, which is, finish the whole project. So I love that. Can you explain more on the philosophy of success breeds success and how that ties into like an overall ripple effect of what you might do?
Yes, that's my favorite. Excuse me. So I'm sure we've all heard the phrase of success breeds success. So to me, when you try something new, you complete this craft and you're like, "Oh, I tried something new, I am feeling good." And your kids come home from school and you're like, hey honey, how was your day? And they're like, oh, my day was pretty good, like mom's in a good mood. And then dad comes home and you're both like, hey dad, how you doing, how was your day? And then dad has to go to a meeting later that evening and he's like, hey, people at the meeting, how's it going? So generalize the term success from this example, but it's creating that energy and that enthusiasm that bleeds from yourself to the person. And if you can keep in that vibe and that emotion, there's the ripple effect. And now, in the terms of success specifically, that's going to vary from person to person. How do you define success? Is it completing a project? Is it dancing in the kitchen? Is it your children doing well? So
Yeah, so there are variables in there for each person as to, what they think of as success. But you are right. The more energy, if you come in a room with, feeling down and out and just like blah, right? And you have that lower energy, it's going to reach the people in the room.
mhm,
So if you don't want that, go in with good energy, and even if you're not feeling very good, right, go in with good energy, the people in the room are going to have good energy, and their energy is going to ripple back to you and helping you to get more energy. So
mhm,
I think it's so important that we look at all of those things, and I think it can be really satisfying to even just uplift other people.
mhm.
I think I find that really powerful.
Absolutely. And I do want to acknowledge, Lisa, you had pointed out when you're not feeling it. When you're not feeling it and you're having a day, that can be a really challenging feeling to work through. You want to be the good energy, you want to be feeling good, and you're just having a day. And whether you have to put yourself in front of your family or a meeting or a room full of people, how do you shift that energy into the place that you want to be and still honor where you are? Because we
Mhm.
can't force ourselves into this hoorah. Although there is truth in the fake it till you make it. And I don't mean being inauthentic. Perhaps you can connect with somebody in a space of vulnerability, and maybe that's just yourself. Today I'm not feeling great. I want to feel better. How can I do that? Why am I feeling this way? To just feel the emotions and work through what it is that you're feeling, to potentially get yourself to a place where you do feel at least in mediocre energy to get to where you want to be, but also honoring where you are.
And I love that you said that, because I've been doing a lot of reading and research on, where we are energetically. And we don't, if we're here, we don't have to expect ourselves to move up to here. We can take little incremental steps. And you just said it, just get up a little bit, get that energy up a little bit, honor where you are, but just try to get that energy up a little bit, because that energy there will take you to the next step at some point, right? And so we don't have to go from here to here. We just have to go to those little incremental steps. And so, and on another little subject, how can we uncover limiting beliefs and use them to our advantage rather than, staying stuck where we are?
That's an excellent question. So let's go with the previous example of not feeling enough. First of all, it's recognizing what the limiting belief is. You have to tune into that voice that we all have in our head, and listen to it. What is it saying? And once we're able to put a thumb on the limiting belief, I'm not good enough, this project isn't good enough, it's not turning out the way I wanted it. Okay, we don't need to focus on where that's coming from per se, and do all that back research. You can do that shadow work, but how do you utilize that to propel you forward is changing what the belief says. So kind of like we said earlier in the idea of the project, this might not meet my standards, but where are my standards coming from? I completed a project. I had fun doing it. I didn't have fun doing it, but I worked through it anyway. So finding different ways to praise yourself and turn the limiting belief, and it doesn't go away after one project.
Right.
You come up to the next project and you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this because last time I wasn't very good and it wasn't very fun. So maybe you want to find a different project that is more appealing, or you just break through it. You just got to start and ask yourself, why are you doing it? I'm doing this because I want to explore with my creativity. I'm doing this because I want to challenge my fear. I'm doing this because I did have inspired action and I want to see what results I can bring forth. I did feel satisfied that I completed the project and I want to feel that again. And then when we continue to work through that limiting belief and forcefully change our perspective, that's where we start to change that limiting belief and rewrite the script in our heads to, this is a positive project. I am a great creator. I am a creative person. I am persistent, whatever your words are.
Yeah, that's really, really great. And I would imagine that if we're doing that, we might come across a project, if we keep trying and maybe this one isn't quite what you want, or you just tried crafts and it wasn't really your thing, but something else might be. We might find that we have some skills and some, things inside of us that will come out of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And one thing, Lisa, oftentimes when we think of creativity, and you and I are talking in this realm of crafts, painting, drawing, but our creativity doesn't have to be paper or projects or crafts. You could go for a walk in a new park. You can take a different route driving to the grocery store. You can go to a museum. You could go to a comedy show. You could go to an orchestra, a city play. You could join a book club. All of those things are challenging your creativity and enhancing and broadening your horizons, where you're trying new things and experimenting with what sets your soul on fire and what creative is to you. It doesn't have to be projects. It doesn't have to be cooking. It doesn't have to be cleaning. We did a project this weekend. I'm using the term project again. We cleaned the garage. Yeah. We got creative with reorganizing things, and we were dancing in the garage, and it brought a new type of energy with me and my partner that we could deem as creativity. So you really have to shift your mindset around creativity to not restrict yourself so much. I'm not a creative person. I'm not a drawer. I'm not an artist, so I can't be creative. And then
Right.
we lose that playfulness and that creativity and the courage and the confidence. We lose all those things by putting ourselves in a box of I'm not a creative.
That is so true. I love that you said that. A lot of my family members are artistic. They're drawers. They're, got that painting, artist, sculpting, all of that. And I always used to say, I don't have any of that. I used to always say that, but I did. I just had to stop saying that. And I actually did love to do crafts of all different kinds. I used to love to I do all different kinds of creative stuff. And, sometimes we don't think them as being creative, and you're right. And I think we have to put our own, thing together as what is creative for us. And you mentioned so many great things that, a lot of times we don't think of as creative. You might take that walk out in the woods and discover something so amazing about yourself, that, you can consider creative. I love that. This has been so wonderful, in talking with you and just getting some insight and input to, the different aspects of courage and confidence and creativity and playfulness and inspired action and all of that. And I just hope the coaches in this group will take a lot of what you said and really just put them, into their lives and bring into their lives. And I just really enjoyed this conversation with you. And you've actually made me feel a little inspired myself to, I'm going to put on some, usually I work music, I put on some other stuff that actually keeps me grounded, but I'm going to start, I think, on my lunch break, when I take a lunch, which I do, putting on some good old fashioned music and having some fun with it. I think I'll make that a part of my daily routine.
I love that. Thank you so much. My hope when I have conversations with my clients is that they feel a little bit of inspiration. And I always walk away from conversations like this with that little energy boost, with that little bit of inspiration. And sometimes I choose to do something with it, and sometimes I don't. I just sit with that. And either way, that's great. I'm excited to hear how your little groove in the kitchen goes. And how you can hopefully incorporate that and other types of playfulness and fun into your daily life.
Yeah, because sometimes we just forget. I'll go into the kitchen to make lunch or make dinner and it's quiet, and I do enjoy the quiet, but I think I would enjoy so much more putting on some good music and bebopping around in the kitchen to that. And I think that would just make my energy feel, inspire me more. So you did encourage me today. So
You also pointed out while you were in the kitchen that the reason you enjoy cooking, I think it was the methodicalness to it, or the repetition. I don't know exactly what you said, but really tuning into that and recognizing I enjoy cooking because, and you don't necessarily need the music, or maybe you open the window and get a little breeze coming in. Little tiny tweaks can make such a huge difference for where our focus is and how we bring enjoyment to all the things.
I love that. And I love that you keep bringing up little simple things like opening the window. They're just little simple things that honestly do bring me joy. And especially this time of year, I don't like air conditioning. I'd rather have the window open and just hear the birds and hear the wind and all of that stuff. So all of those things are just, and I want the coaches to really recognize what you said. It's just little things that we've forgotten to implement into our lives. And so I really appreciate this conversation. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. I always end by asking, my guest, what's something on your bucket list that you want to accomplish?
Ooh, I love that question. So the first thing that comes to mind is that I'd like to travel to Bali and Greece. But something I want to accomplish is to speak in a retreat in some form or another. That is a vision that I have for my future. So
Okay, and just tell me, a big retreat or a small retreat, or do you have any, goal that?
Both. I would love both. I imagine like a small circle of women in a small retreat setting. Although I'd also be happy to reach the masses and speak on a women's conference stage, and men too, right? I don't want to just hone in on one gender, but
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Thank you. And so if the coaches in this group and anybody else that sees this, if they want to get in touch with you, where's the best place to get in touch with you?
awesome. Right now, the best place to reach me is just on Facebook, facebook.com, Shrylle.Mikkonen. I also have my personal group that is currently available to the public, which is facebook.com/Align Life Works. I think Lisa noted she was going to put that in the comments here and on the YouTube. So those are a couple places you can reach me. Feel free to send me a private message. I'd love to chat and have this type of conversation with anybody and everybody. So
I love it. And I think you have a Calendly link too here. So that can, they can also go to your, and find you there as well and connect with you. And I hope they do. So this was really, really a great interview. I really thank you. And guys, go for it. Get on a call, check her out.
absolutely. The Calendly link is a free discovery call to connect with me and see if you can take some inspired action and maybe even want to work with me in the future. So I am here for you.